Sure. On TJump, I run a YouTube channel, youtube.com/TJump, where I have conversations with professors and philosophers about different topics in academia, consciousness, epistemology, ontology, existence of God, morality, that kind of stuff. Thanks
Awesome.
for having
Yeah.
me on.
Yeah, man. I love having you on my podcast, bro. And I've been watching a lot of your debates and your discussions, and it's been really interesting, right? But I guess when it comes to the debating stuff, it will always go bad. And a lot of times, and but what do you think of those kinds of discussions, though, right? Because if it's a debate, right, but at the end people shout at each other or have like bad gripes, or what do you think about that stuff? Like, is that productive, or what do you yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly productive. I think the idea is to give the audience an idea of how to respond to those situations, like what kind of arguments to use or how to keep your cool or whatever. And it's entertainment, I guess. They can relate to how people treat them and how some debates can get out of hand, and it's just kind of normal interaction. So it's totally fine. I don't think there's any problem with it. I don't really care about people's intentionality, like whether or not they are being kind or trying to represent your argument accurately. It's for me, all that matters is what is the argument they're making and how do you respond to it. So I don't really take it personally, and I don't really judge people for being mean or misrepresenting. It doesn't really make a difference to me one way or the other. I just think it's a practice of interactions, like how do you respond to what they're saying and what's the best way to do it, and that gives something for your audience to think about.
Yeah, I guess people watch a lot of these debates and discussions on YouTube and the internet, and I guess it becomes sort of their ammunition for real life situations where when they when it because like religious and political discussions always are like taboo, and like dinner tables and family discussions with friends also. So I guess I really admire your coolness, bro. When when you're in a discussion, like you always keep your calm. I watched your debate with Jay Dyer and the dumpster fire that it was, but yeah, like that I was really impressed by the calmness of how you interact with some people. But I guess like when someone is like saying that like you're making a foolish argument, how would you respond to that? Like if they're not willing to engage in a proper discussion and engage with your ideas, how do you generally respond to that kind of argument?
I laugh at them. That's usually the best response.
Yeah.
The idea is to present something to the audience. It makes sense to the audience, because if it makes sense to the audience, then you've won the debate. It doesn't make a difference what your opponent thinks. So as long as you can present a coherent argument that your audience can make sense of, and it sounds like you've responded coherently to them, then that's all you really need. And your opponent doesn't matter at all. You can just essentially ignore them.
Yeah, I guess because if it's just a one-on-one debate, then that's where you have to like in your purpose, is intention is for your opponent to understand your arguments and actually interact with it, I guess. But because if it's a public one, then your intention is for the audience to watch how your argument is more coherent and more, I guess, more founded on the truth, right? So that's your intention.
Yeah, pretty much. My goal is, since it is my job as a YouTuber, to entertain the audience more so than to convince anybody I'm talking to. Like, I don't really think debates, rarely they convince the person you're talking to, but it does have an impact on the people who are listening. There are a few occasions where I have convinced people about specific issues that I've been talking with, but not usually, especially not like on converting people, which has happened a few times. I know a few YouTube people who have been changed their position on religious issues, but it's really rare. So mostly the point of debate is just to have a conversation so that the audience can listen and relate to the conversation and learn from it. That's essentially the only real goal.
Yeah, can I
So it
ask?
doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, Can I
It
ask
doesn't
how
really make
you
a difference if
started? Yeah, how you started this YouTube thing? I guess like because you're really smart, bro, and you're really knowledgeable, and I'm really impressed by that. Like I'm starting out on the list you posted on what to read and to study philosophy, but I can't even surpass the first one. But I'm trying to. But how did you start? I guess you're being a YouTuber and these discussions. Like, were you always planning on this, or was it? How did you start?
So I had major depression my entire life. I had essentially zero friends or family or relationships, and I tried everything I could to get out of it. And one of the things I tried was philosophy. So I spent about 8 years just sitting alone studying philosophy, doing nothing else. And I started to invite professors out to go to coffee to have conversations about philosophy, to talk about stuff. And they were gracious enough to go to visit with me and chat with me for several hours. And I couldn't remember everything they said, so I would record the conversations and post them on YouTube. And that got a decent amount of traction. And so I just started to do that and got bigger and bigger without even trying. And that was essentially how I got started on YouTube.
But I want to ask you more about like why philosophy, because I myself I'm into philosophy because of how I think, right? I think deeply into stuff and think about the rationality of things. But for you like why philosophy, bro?
Well, for me, philosophy was just one of the things I tried. It wasn't special in any way. It was just, I had tried religion, religion didn't work. I had tried relationships, relationships didn't work. I tried family, family didn't work. So I tried hobbies, hobbies didn't work. So it was just another thing on the list. I thought, well, maybe if I got good or succeeded at this, this could help me with my depression. So I spent a lot of years studying philosophy and science, biology, cosmology, chemistry, physics, and politics. And none of that actually helped either, but I got pretty good at it. And so it did lead to a job, which was
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Yeah. And I don't like to say that I have depression, but I guess we all get sad sometimes. But I depression is a serious thing, and but how do you like go to a therapist for it? Like, how did you try to cope with it, bro? Like, I know it's really difficult to have that, or why do you think you have it? And um, can you tell us something about that if you're okay with it?
Sure. So I was bullied pretty bad in grade school. I was like, my earliest memories are being stabbed with pencils and getting detentions and being hit by my parents. So I did not like people very much. I had zero positive human interactions for pretty much my entire life. So that's why I had depression. I pretty much learned to never speak to anyone ever. Just stay away from everybody because everyone causes you pain. So I learned that, and that was essentially my grade school life. And then high school, I just never spoke to anyone. I was completely alone. Tried socializing at the end near like junior, senior year, but I just still could never get over that social anxiety of being afraid of people. So made essentially no friends, then never spent any time with anybody. Um, and that was essentially my entire life for the most part. And then when I tried to actually be social and get in relationships, they definitely don't work out for me the way they do for normal people because I don't care about words very much. All words make me feel like shit. And for especially relationships with women, they really like words and you caring about talking to them and not feeling like crap. And so that ended poorly, led to lots of bottles of sleeping pills and time in psych wards. And so I spent a lot of time with therapists and that never helped. But so like to get out of there to psych wards, you had to essentially fake it. You had to learn how to pretend to be confident and charismatic and how to talk to people. And so that's where I learned my social skills, how to fake it to get out for the most part. Um, So yeah, it was not fun for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess, but what I think, bro, is that, the challenges that we have could actually be like what can be used and to teach us to help other people. And, what you're doing, bro, in YouTube is opening a lot of minds, right? And even if I'm a theist, right? But I am like, I am pro people thinking for themselves and actually looking at the evidence and the facts and how, and if it appears like what you currently believe is false, then I am really pro for that. But okay, but um, can you talk about like your book, right? You've written a book, and I'm sure that you would like to uh, talk about it.
Sure. So yeah, I wrote a book essentially of my epistemology, all the basis of knowledge I learned from philosophy, all the accumulation of my arguments and how I approach it and stuff. So, uh, I don't have a publisher for the epistemology one yet. I do have one for the morality one. So working on that. Hopefully the morality one should be out next year sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you talk about, I guess, your future plans? Like, I'm sure that you're writing on a new book and also focusing on like expanding your YouTube platform. Where are you going there, bro?
Yeah, hopefully I'll get some books published and I'll start to be able to do live debates and events at other atheist groups around the country again. I have one planned for February, which I'm supposed to do, which is really cool. And it's in Georgia, so if you're in the area, that would be, you can stop on by and hang out. That would be cool. So I have those would be a big event, and then I'd like to get into politics if possible. So those are essentially my plans, just to write the book, do events, do live debates, hopefully grow in popularity that way. And I think that's mostly what my plan is right now.
Yeah, cool. And of course, being president of the United States, right? That's also in the list.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. We talked about before a little about politics, right? But I want to know your, I guess, your personal value position on the on how the United States is coping with COVID and how Biden is it has won. Like, do you think it's going to get better after that, or it's just going to be more? I get worse. It's gonna get worse.
Well, a large portion of Americans thinks it's a hoax, so there's definitely not going to get better. Like even in places where they take it seriously, like New York, it's pretty bad. So I don't think there's any chance of it getting better. I think that the shutdowns are only meant to try to keep the to slow it down a bit until we get the vaccine. But we do have a vaccine that was approved yesterday by the FDA, the Pfizer vaccine, and that's supposed to come to the U.S. like today and tomorrow and following weeks. So that should, if it works, that'll help, and that'll essentially start things to get back to normal, which will be good. That'll cause a economic boom. That'll looking forward to that. Buy stocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what I think though for America is that um, they have to focus also on like a third political party, right? Because being just centered on the Democrat versus Republican one, it's it's like put people in this trap, and I guess their choices have become, I guess, limited. I don't know, but how would you put it? Like, should the U.S. Be a multi political party?
Definitely, but to do that, what we need to do is we need to get rid of the first past the post voting system because right now the voting system is just whoever gets the most votes wins. And so if you vote for a third party, your vote isn't even counted in the election because the only ones they count are the ones between the two major party, to the two closest to win. Everybody else, like, who cares? So what we need is the single transferable vote system, which means you vote for the person you want most, and if they aren't in the top two, then your vote gets transferred to your second choice, and if they're in the top two, then it goes to whichever one you pick. Therefore, everybody's vote does get to be counted in the end, and that way you can vote for your favorite candidate, like Bernie Sanders or one of the independents or whatever, and then if they don't get elected, then your vote will be transferred automatically to your Biden or whoever else you voted for after that. And that way you can actually vote for a third party without wasting your vote. And it won't come down to a political system of voting for the least evil. And that will give us more opportunity to have a third party system and represent more ideas in the political landscape that are not currently being represented.
Mm-hmm. And I think though, like people's political, I guess, like values are really centered on their personal ideals, right, and values. For example, for the libertarians, I guess they focus on individualism, and for in the left, it's more focused on socialism and looking at the the collective more, right? But how about your personal values? Like, are you leaning on more of a socialist or more of an individualist value system?
Well, the political system is essentially set up so that libertarians value freedom and liberty. So they want essentially non-restriction on people as much as possible. The liberals want to help as many suffering people as possible, and the Republicans want to keep things the same. Like, oh, this system has worked in the past, we should keep it the same and not overextend our resources to help more people, because if we overextend our resources, the economy will collapse. And the liberals are like, we have plenty of excess resources, we should help more people, and so put more into healthcare, Social Security, whatever. And the libertarians are like, what we need to do is just give everyone freedom to do as much as they can without imposing restrictions on them economically, financially, whatever. And they think that system will work, which I am a centrist, so I think that there's parts of each of those three systems which are good and work well, and we should incorporate aspects of each into our political system. It really doesn't have anything to do with socialism. That's only a far left side, not really relevant, because again, the whole point of liberalism is just they want to help as many people as possible. They think we have excess resources and we can help more people, and they're right. There's definitely a lot more we can do with that. And the Republicans are also right that we can't overextend our resources and help too many people, because if we do, that'll cause economic collapse. Like, we don't have enough money to help everybody. If you give everyone money, essentially it causes inflation and devalues money for everybody, which will cause all poor people to be affected by that. So there's lots of considerations you have to consider when deciding how to spend your money in politics. But there's things that are right on the Republican conservative side, there are things that are right on the liberal Democrat side, and there are things that are right in the libertarian centrist side. And you have to incorporate all of those to really get a good political system.
Mm-hmm. But I guess, like, where, and in terms of like I guess on that scale, right, that you mentioned, freedom versus I guess the the sacrifice of some rights for the benefit of the many, right? Where do you stand on that some specific issues, like, let's say, taxation?
Well, the tax policy should be a what's it called? Essentially, like a flat rate tax for the most part. Not our current tax system is super complicated, and it shouldn't be. It should just be essentially pretty simplified, just tax brackets, and that's it, and not this super complicated 10,000 page document that everyone has to go through. Right now, the biggest problem in taxes is the fact that, well, no one should have to actually do taxes. Our taxes are already done for us by the government, and then the government tries to make sure that our numbers that we send in are about accurate, and then they make it illegal for the government to do our taxes for us because of things like TurboTax, which get paid billions of dollars to do people's taxes, which is a complete waste of money that people should not have to pay because the government can do it for us automatically. The IRS literally does this for everyone automatically. So why do we have to do it also and spend billions of dollars on this, which is just a waste of money? It's a scam that we need to fix in the country. So wasting money on taxes is a huge issue. The taxes themselves are totally good for the government. You need a source of income in order to have a government and a military and public schools and things. So taxation is good to some degree. We should definitely tax the rich more, tax poor people less as much as possible. Try to find the correct balance there. I think that the best way to do it is not through taxation, but through making a pay cap for CEOs and shareholders based on the number of employees they have. So your compensation financially is limited based off of the number of employees that you are subsidizing in the economy and who you give jobs so that they can reinvest money back into the economy. And your personal compensation, your actual value to an economy is going to be based on how many people you can employ, how many jobs you can offer. So I agree with the Republican idea that jobs matter and job holdership matters. And so we should limit people's pay based off of how much jobs they actually create, not just based off of how much useless junk they can create that people want to buy, like advertising for Google or junky iPhone crap. Like it should actually be based off of the number of employees, not the number of uh, stuff people buy from your company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, specifically, I think, right, like when it comes to that, people, normal people, I guess, like, and average people, just put it, think about it and say that, I earned this and I'm not going to spend it on, let's say, other people's insurance, right? I earned this for myself. It's my from my own hard work and sweat. I'm not gonna pay off someone else's student loans. Like, I guess it all boils down to their personal values and where they stand on it. Like, but how about you, bro? Like, do you think that you should people should pay more taxes? I guess for in that sense. But
Well, like most of the stuff you use, you didn't pay for, or you didn't, other people paid for. So like all of the roads you drive on, those were paid for by other people. All of the fire trucks that used to save people's houses, those are paid for by other people. All of the infrastructure, the sewage, the electrical, um, heating and cooling, all of that stuff was paid for by other people through taxes. It's the same as insurance and the same as healthcare, the same as military. Like the point of the government is to do things that other people don't want to spend money on. It's not like, oh, I want to send my money to help build a road in Arkansas. Like, no, people don't want to spend their money to help other people. Obviously, that's why you need the government, because you need somebody to spend money to help people who don't have the ability to help themselves. Like, obviously, no one wants to spend their money to help other people to some degree, which is why charity just doesn't work as a way to help people, because most people will never give a sufficient amount to charity. Most people will never hear about the people who actually need it. Most people will never give charity to things that are actually productive, like building roads or infrastructure. They'll give it to churches or something, which is usually a waste to spread Bibles and maybe some food, but never really help build up the economy or help get people out of poverty or help educate people on systems. Really, the people who are doing the things to help bring people out of poverty is the government. The government has one policy called, I think it's the EOTC, which is the earned income, or EITC, earned income tax something credit, earned income tax credit, I think is what it's called, which is essentially, if you don't make enough money, the government just gives you money. If you don't make enough money, we're just going to give you a whole bunch of money. It's a tax credit. And that has brought more people out of poverty than any other policy in America, because they just are giving people money, which is great. That works to bring people out of poverty because it gives them the upward mobility to be able to spend their money to get cars or whatever they need to hold a job or to pay off loans. That's really what works. So those kind of systems, which are supported by taxes, are successful at helping people, whereas charity is not successful at helping people. And we need an organization like the government in order to fund things that people are not going to, like roads and electricity and plumbing for everyone, not just for your neighborhood. So obviously, none of that stuff you paid for, or none of that stuff is going to help you. Like you're not going to be helped by the roads in Arkansas or the electrical in Kansas or whatever. But you pay those because everything government does is meant to help everyone in America, not just you. That's kind of the point of the government and taxes, which are a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, I guess but I was more, I wanted to focus more on your general view on life, right? Let's say like I am just like let's say I'm a young man, maybe 13 or 14, and just realized and learned about philosophy and just started asking like the life's biggest questions, right? Like and I want to ask myself like, why am I here? Is God real? Like, is there really an objective good or evil? Okay, but if you were that child, like how would you start? Like where would you start to know the truth? Like would you, I guess you would try many things, right? Like religion, other philosophies. But if you're someone with your knowledge now, like where should the child start or the young man start?
Throw all of that junk in the trash can and go have fun. Like, and I think that the only reason I've done philosophy is to try and find happiness. Like, really, none of this crap matters. Religion doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. Happiness matters. Happiness is the only thing that really does matter. So find that. And if pursuing truth makes you happy, then do it. If not, just get rid of it. It's a waste of time. Um, I would have preferred to go partying and hang out with hot blondes. That would have made me happy. I think philosophy was just a waste. Just kind of, it led me to a job, which is nice, and hopefully it'll lead me to a future with hot blondes. But other than that, none of it really matters. If you're doing it for fun, then that's great. You can, like you mentioned, my reading list. I have a reading list on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in, if you find it fun doing philosophy, you can check out my reading list or just watch debates and stuff. But I'd say forget it and do what you enjoy instead.
Okay, but I guess like, but that's a huge, I guess, like claim to say that the pursuit of truth is nothing more but vanity, bro. Like, and I guess like when you say happiness, right, it's more of just the happiness in the now. I guess happiness is very subjective, right? And that's what you said. Like if following philosophy uh makes you happy, but what kind of happy are you talking about? Like,
Every kind. So like there was a thought experiment that was asked to me by a guy from Street Epistemology Discord. He asked, "Would you rather know truth or be happy?" Like I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that. And I said, I would give up truth in a second to be happy. Like I don't give a shit about truth. I want happiness. And he found that strange because he always thought, well, no, 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 we're the skeptic community. We're supposed to like pursue truth. And I was like, no. So so imagine if I could know the truth, and if I knowing the truth, I would wake up and realize that, oh, we're actually in the Matrix, and we're actually all slaves to robots being tortured the entire time, experimented on. And if we wake up, we're just in constant suffering. So I'd be like, nope, I would rather not know that and stay in the Matrix and just be ambivalent to the actual truth, because I don't need, like, it's possible for there to be truths that are painful and there's nothing you can do about it, and I'd rather not know them. I don't care. Like I want to know things that can help me to be happy. That's why I learned philosophy, why I learned politics. I tried to learn things that I could use to try and be happy. I don't actually care what the truth is. I care about what could make me happy, regardless of whether or not it's true. If I could live a lie and just delude myself into believing like there's a God or something just to make myself happy, I would do it in a second. Like it's better to be happy than it is to know truth. Truth really doesn't make a difference unless you could use it to be happy.
I guess it's Tom Ignorance is Bliss Jump, hey? 2020.
Yep.
Okay, I guess, but hmm, that's really something to think about. But I guess, like, if that's the thought process of every philosopher and thinker and scientist and explorer in the past and history, like, we would be nowhere, right? Like, there has to be someone who wants to actually know the truth, because it is and it will be beneficial for, I guess, like, society and the world, don't you think? And it's
Sure, there's some people who definitely like exploring things, like Newton. It liked exploring things and trying to discover what the world is like. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, yes, if that's what makes you happy. But if not, it's knowing truth doesn't have any value in and of itself unless you already enjoy it. But the enjoyment part is what matters, not the knowing the truth. So only do it if you actually enjoy it, and if you don't waste your time.
I guess so. Basically, that you're someone who has dived into the epistemology, the all these the metaphysics and everything. I guess, but when it comes to existentialism, is that your position and your take on it? Because coming from like an atheistic worldview, right, where everything is just an accident and meaningless, and happy, and our life's meaning is purely subjective. So, is that your take on it? Is to just pursue your personal, what I guess, the what's intuitionally happiness and well-being for you? I guess that's how you take it.
No, I'm a moral realist, so I think there is objective meaning, purpose, value, morality, and all those kinds of things. But again, none of that matters if it doesn't make you happy. So if pursuing those things makes you miserable, don't do it. Pursue the things that make you happy. If you believe in God and pursuing belief in God and worshiping God makes you miserable, then don't do it. It's what matters more is trying to avoid suffering. Like what really matters in life is what makes you happy. Like what can give you the least suffering in your existence and the most happiness in your existence. That is what you should pursue. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's drugs, then pursue the drugs. If it's money, pursue the money. If it's God, pursue God, whatever it is. But that's what you should be doing, is what makes you happy. Not, you shouldn't be trying to force yourself to do something miserable, like adhere to a God's will if it doesn't make you happy. It's just a waste of time. Like, forget the God, do what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. I guess. Okay, so when it comes to what makes you happy, right? Is it more of a rational thing? Like, should I analyze all the data before me? Look at all the evidence and think about like even the eternal consequences of something, right? So that's why people would look into truth in order to know whether or not in the afterlife there's something like an eternal happiness or suffering waiting for them. So that would be in accordance to what your existence your what you're saying.
Well, so not exactly. So if there is an afterlife which is requires you to go through immense suffering in life to get to it, it's not worth it. It's just garbage. So whoever would do that is a cruel monster, and so you shouldn't even consider worshiping them at all. So what you should do is enjoy your life as much as you can. And if there was a moral being who had a moral afterlife, then they will give you an afterlife after for doing what you could to try and enjoy your life, not trying to go through some grueling process of pain and suffering to try and meet its vindictive slave desires. That would not be a valuable use of your life. So just do what makes you happy. Try and help others to help them do what makes them happy, and that's the best way to live.
But okay, can we look more into the health thing though, right? Like, can you tell me generally why it entails that someone like something or someone like a god, like creating something like a hell, would entail an evil god? Why would that generally or necessarily lead to that? Would it some Christians would define it as justice or God's wrath? but it doesn't mean that God is evil if he created something like a hell. Well,
That's exactly what it means. So it's like, well, Hitler created gas chambers. Like, does that make Hitler evil? Yes, it does. If you take any person and you put them into a situation of pain and suffering when you don't have to, that makes you evil. That's just what it means. Like, if there is an option where you can make every person as happy as they can be without restricting or imposing on anybody else's will without consent, you should do so. That is the moral thing to do. So if you can give everyone their own universe, they can design however they want, including Hitler. Give Hitler his own universe. He can design it however he wants, and make the one rule that it's physically impossible to force any other being to do anything they don't consent to. That is the moral universe. That is the thing that is the only world a moral being could create. Everything else is immoral. Everything else is just creating a situation where suffering and evil is a result of how you created the world, and so you are evil. So the only thing a moral being could do would be to give every conscious being its own universe, let it design it however it wants, and just add that one extra rule that's physically impossible to force any being to force any other being to do anything they don't consent to, and then you get a moral universe. That is the only possibility of what a moral universe could be. That is essentially heaven or hell or whatever you want to call it. That's the only option. There's not multiple categories for different people. You have to treat everyone the exact same. It's that view of John Rawls, the veil of ignorance. You have to create to create a fair society. You have to create it from the position of where you wouldn't know where you would be in the society. And so in order for to know if it's a fair society, you'd have to be like, see, well, if I'm going to be placed at the very bottom, the worst possible situation in here, is that someplace I'd want to be? And if you create a hell, like, well, obviously, no, you don't want to be sent to hell. So the correct thing to do is to not create a hell, make everyone equally, make society fair for everyone, regardless of who they are, what they are, if they're Hitler or not. It doesn't matter how bad they are. If you can make it so that they can exist in their own universe and do whatever they want with that universe, and as long as they can't hurt other people, that is the moral thing to do. It is not moral to punish them. It is not moral to send them to hell. It is not moral to give judgment on them. It's moral to treat them as you would any other being. Like, the highest moral religious standard is that of Jainism, complete absolute non-violence. So saying, I don't care if you try to punch me, I'm not going to punch you back. That is the absolute height of morality and humanity. So even someone as bad as Hitler or whoever, if you would treat them the same as any other human being and give them their own universe and not judge them and not punish them and just like just put them off in their own space, that would be the moral thing to do. It wouldn't be moral to punish them. It wouldn't be moral or just to hurt them because of what they did. It's just the moral thing to do is to just treat every being equally. And that's the only thing a moral God could do. So no, if he created hell, he would definitely be immoral.
hmm Yeah, I guess, but and from what you just said, like, I guess when it comes to pursuing one's happiness, it is necessary to at least explore the truth, right? Because, for example, one wouldn't have been able to arrive at what you have said, the statements you made, the conclusions you arrived, if they hadn't explored the truth in order to assess what would make them absolutely happy, when it comes to the afterlife or whatever, right? So do you think, I guess, that someone has to at least like explore some level of philosophy in order to know what could make them happy? Or is it just,
Nope.
like, okay.
There are tons of kids all over the world who are very happy and have never learned philosophy, and they're better off than people who have learned philosophy and are not happy. So happiness is, you don't need to know philosophy to know what'll make you happy. You just need to live and experience things, and you'll find things that make you happy and things that don't. That's it. That's all you really need. And do more of the things that make you happy and less of the things that don't. You don't need to do some kind of super existential analysis to try and figure out what those things are. You just need to experience them.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but I guess, when it comes to that, right? um we have Hitler is someone who has wanted to be truly happy and has, ultimately ignored most of the exploration for truth, right? And just accepted some what the moral zeitgeist of fascism and cult and Darwinism. So, but I guess how does
Well,
one?
no, Hitler rejected Darwinism for one thing. Hitler was Christian for another thing. So he actually believed in multiple gods. He was searching for like Thor's hammer and mystical stuff. But so no, he just thought he was doing the moral thing. Like I was recently talking with the professor Richard Brown, who was talking about how he makes his student read Himmler's book, Himmler's diary, and Himmler thought he was doing the moral thing. He was agonizing over killing all these people. He thought he was doing the best thing for society. So the idea here is that you should, as I said, do what makes you happy without imposing on other people involuntarily. The most moral thing to do is to give everyone their own universe and never impose on them without consent. It should be the best universe is one where it is physically impossible to force any being to do anything they don't consent to do. And so the same rule applies to everybody. You should do what makes you happy so long as you don't impose on other people without their consent. That's not something you should do.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, but I guess when it comes to that, it does involve some sort of, I guess, like studying on ethics and morality, and values and virtue in order to become someone like that who pursues happiness without stepping over others' rights and consent, so, and moral agency. So I just, I sort of just want to push back because I really believe that every person should attempt at the truth, even if it's inevitable that they're not gonna arrive at it, I guess, because as a human species, we have to look forward, and we move forward and pursue the truth, because for that we're able to assess the general idea of well-being that we want to pursue, right? For example, like for ideas like a utopia and globe and a cosmopolitan uh, a cosmopolitan society. It does involve philosophy, especially when it comes to also like veganism and what political views one should take, right? It does involve that. And if you're going to be someone who's ignorant of these, yeah, you're going to be easily manipulated, like a lot of people. So you have to be focused on that too, right? You can't just ignore it all your life, like a lot of people who.
No, most people ignore most things all of their life and they're perfectly fine with it. So, no, you don't need to research all of philosophy. You don't need to study any of these things to just not be manipulated. Just do what makes you happy. Like, that's it. That's all you really need. You don't need anything else. Like, most people don't know about veganism. If you just started to go around asking, but what is veganism, unless you're like in a highly educated liberal state, most people aren't going to know or care because it doesn't matter to them. And that's perfectly fine. Like, you shouldn't need or put invest in learning about things to try and prevent some abstract manipulation that you don't have any idea about in the future because you don't know what veganism is. Like, no, you should pursue what makes you happy, and that's
but
it.
but I guess I really disagree, man. Like, if that was the thought process of every person, we as a society would break down, right? There would be no progress because you would be
No, no,
absolutely.
so that's wrong. Again, so many people are made happy by doing science and pursuing truth, and that's fine for them. So
Okay, so basically what you're saying is just not, it doesn't have to be for everyone. It's just to be, it's specific for those who actually want to do it and are happy studying and exploring and learning the truth. If that's where they find their happiness.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess when it comes to that, are you saying that every person, I guess every individual has some sort of function in society, and that if they pursue their self realization, their happiness, then that's where they could maximize their potential for helping society become greater and better, right? And changing
No,
the
I don't give a
world.
crap about society. No, so that doesn't mean a damn thing. All that matters is what makes you happy. It doesn't matter if it helps society or not. If it makes you happy to go live off in the forest and be alone, then go live off in the forest and be alone. If it makes you happy to sit around and play video games all day, then sit around and play video games all day. Uh,
Okay. Okay. Hmm. But I guess like I guess like how do you have like a is that more of like a rational thing, or is just your intuitional wisdom from experience? What kind of uh truth proposition is that? Like is it, or is it
yeah,
just your
it,
subjective
it's
opinion?
more from experience. Like
Mhm.
I've done lots of philosophy and studied a lot and worked very hard at many things, and it was all a complete waste of time. And I would have rather have just been doing. It was all a mistake. If I could have done what would have made me happy, that would have been a better option in every case.
Okay, I wanna. I guess I wanna dive into what could have made you happy before. Okay, like if you weren't in philosophy, you didn't become a YouTuber and didn't give you a job. Where would you be now? If you actually followed what would make you happy.
Well, I never had a chance to be happy, so that's kind of the point, is
Mm-hmm.
that I was always doing everything I could to the best of my ability and was never given any opportunity to be happy in my life. For me, happiness is hot blondes. That's what I need to be happy. So never had any in my life, never had any opportunities essentially in my life. Never
Yeah.
had any close human relationships of pretty much any kind in most of my life. So it was all pretty miserable for me. And that's kind of, if I had the option, I would definitely change all of that and then not go through any of the things I had to go through in life. There's no value in pretty much anything I had to go through. So if I had the option, I'd just go to parties, hang out with hot blondes. College would have been fun and that kind of thing, socializing. But I never had any opportunity to do those things, and they always made me feel like shit.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, one last question, bro, because it's been awesome talking to you and learning about how you think and look at generally at life, and all these stuff. Okay, so when it comes to that, right? Like, so you're giving I guess advice to people, to even to the youth to follow their dreams and to just be happy. But I guess like what if you're in a situation where where it's just so hard because your environment, the context, it's a huge hindrance for it. But how would I overcome it, and what should be my attitude, and if I really want to pursue my happiness?
I don't know because everything I've done has failed. So if you find a way, let me know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I hope you have a great day, bro, and keep finding that hot blonde girl. Yeah, she's there for you,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah.
Bye.